Oh, this is my favorite episode, times two. It's doubly good. InGoal Radio, the podcast. Darren Millard, along with the co-founders of InGoal Magazine, David Hutchison and Kevin Woodley. Welcome to episode 53, or in my world, I call it episode 54, because technically we've already done this episode, except one person on this call, on this connection, didn't record. So thus, we're doing it again. And boy, this should be a really good production from InGoal Radio, the podcast. Today, we're going to chat with David Leggio, a minor leaguer, played in Europe, and he's very famous for a couple of different reasons. One of which is how to properly defend a 2-on-0 and make a 2-on-0 into a 1-on-1 situation. You knock the net off. I'm sure you've seen it. If you haven't, Google, press pause in the podcast, Google it, and then come back, because it is a fascinating interview and really gets into a lot of different things about the art of goaltending from a guy who had to work for every start through the course of his professional career. And we will also catch up with Cam over at Source for Sports, the hockey shop, thehockeyshop.com. The new line of equipment is coming out, the launches of that new line across the board. And today we're going to focus on the Bauer 2S Pro line. There's some good deals over at the hockey shop, thehockeyshop.com, Source for Sports, Surrey. So now that we've got the warm-up out of the way, let's bring in Hutch and Woody. And I'm wondering, Woody, you're famous for having the warm-up stick, and then you replace it in your men's league when you're done with the pregame, and then you use the game stick. Do you have a warm-up microphone, and then you use the show mic when it's time to actually hit record and do this thing for real?
Yeah, I might have been the problem. I am the idiot. And in my defense, I did hit record. I would like to point out that at various points over our first year of podcasting, other people have actually not hit record. Maybe yes. I did it once too. But the warm up mic was not plugged in properly, and so we wasted what I thought was probably my best material of the entire year. Just it doesn't exist anymore. It went into cyberspace. Yeah, it was fantastic. So I'm an idiot. I made these guys work double duty, and I apologize for that. But hey, we get a second take, and that means we get a second chance to be even better. It's a warm up, guys. It was a warm up.
This one's going to be so good, you will hardly have to edit anything out of our conversation today.
I think so. And Woody probably might be at a loss for words tonight. We'll see what happens.
I'm going to be a lot quieter than usual because I feel it. This is my version of playing guilty.
Yeah.
The couple of things that we did discuss, and as sort of came out of the conversation that Hutch had with David Leggio, was one about his take on where coaches go with their starting netminders. How often do you start them in a row? What constitutes a performance good enough to start consecutive games? It's really interesting how he compares it to position players and, like, say, a starting center. Just because you win a game, does he start again? Or if he has a bad game, does he come out of the lineup? Some interesting angles on that, and also talked a little bit about the rope drill, and what do you guys call it?
Box
by the way,
control. Box
control.
Yes.
And so I was hearing box control out of this conversation between Hutch and Leggio. I thought, what the heck are they talking about? And because I'm not as in tune as you guys, as everybody knows, so I did the Googling, and here it is, the ropes that are out there. And lo and behold, like, I remember Pete Peters in the early 90s with the Winnipeg Jets doing this. And I mean, he was out, I don't know, between the blue line and the top of the circles with these things. And now it's so much more advanced, but still the same principle. It's just interesting how one really good idea stands the test of time, although it's tweaked a little bit, Hutch.
Yeah, I'm sure there's somebody out there listening saying the ropes are not box control. The ropes are a tool for teaching box control. But
okay, what's the difference there, just for my benefit?
Well, the ropes are a tool for showing you how you efficiently gain net coverage. They're showing you in three-dimensional space when you're covering the net behind you. The net behind you is a lot larger than the surface that you need to cover in order to make sure that no pucks enter that net as a result of depth and angles and so on. So they're just a fine tool for illustrating that for you, aside tangible right in front of you rather than looking at video and so on. As we did a bit of that today as well. We talked about that this morning, did it this afternoon, out on the ice with the iPad as well, so that the goaltender could actually see how they were covering space from various places on the ice.
And I thought it was interesting to hear Leggio talk about it. And I got to say, Hutch, great job on the interview with David Leggio. I think a lot of us, the headline, the focus will be what made him famous, which was the 2-on-0 and knocking the net off. But so much good in-depth information. And as you'll hear in the interview, he talks about learning it from Julonen, the sort of Finnish godfather, when he was in Finland and Turku in 2009-2010. And I think the term box control came from Thomas Magnusson, who we've had as a guest in Sweden, and 2015 at the Network Goaltending Symposium in 2015. That phrase box control and sort of that's where it became popular. It was more of a terminology thing and an evolution of the teaching of it as well. Not because I don't want to be dismissive in any way of it, but we've seen it in various forms. I've worked with coaches who used posts out in front of them. Before that, we hear Leggio talking about using it 5 years earlier with Julonen. Connor Hellebuck talked about using it as a kid when he was growing up. He talked about this, closing off the small net in front of you instead of the big net behind you, and actually using the little mini nets in minor hockey as a way to sort of illustrate and understand, again, develop that spatial awareness that we don't have to worry about the 6x4 behind us, because in order to get past us, it has to come through this much smaller space, this smaller net, this smaller box in front of us. And it's a lot easier to think about closing that off than it is to think about opening up and trying to protect this giant space behind us. So it's been a fascinating evolution. Obviously, there's technical elements that have come to how do we close it. Like I said, the posts I remember Lyle Mast working with the posts like probably 7 or 8 years ago, and the concept of head trajectory and how if we track a puck a certain way in terms of the mechanics, they will actually, with our head and how we move it, allow us to see a release longer, but also the way we move it will cause our body to move into that space, as opposed to old school reaching for pucks and opening up the net and opening up space.
And the interesting part about the evolution is people have used mirrors out there so goaltenders can get real-time feedback, but the advancements in the cameras and the iPads, you flip it around and you get the goaltender gets to look to see how much net he's covering. It's just been helped just elevate that drill and give the goaltenders the feedback instead of just trusting those ropes and going with the concept. So it's I've enjoyed the process, and through this David Leggio interview, learning what box control is and the slight differences that you guys have also explained. And you're right, Woody. It was a really cool interview that Hutch did. And you also gave Leggio a real teacher's compliment, talking about who was it that was a former teacher? Sudsy, yeah. And then you said, yeah, that teaching background really comes in handy. I'm like, you son of a gun, coming at it from the educational background and giving yourself a pat in the back. But yeah, it was a fun interview. David Leggio is coming up in just a little bit as we chat about his famous display of knocking the net off, something that he did twice. One gained him internet fame, and the other one got him in a lot of hot water with the German league. And there's some regret in his voice in those answers. We'll get into that in just a little bit, but source for sports Surrey, the Hockey Shop, thehockeyshop.com, our title sponsor, and some big things happening out with Cam right now. Hutch and Woody.
Yeah, it was nice to get back out there. We've kind of turned the gear segment over to other avenues of late. Had some guest appearances on the gear segment. We did the questions with Cam a couple of times, but back out there in person. And the first thing I noticed as they prepare to bring in all the latest and greatest for the spring launches, Bauer, Ultrasonic, CCM, Axis, that means it's time to put the previous generation on sale. And the one that really popped out, and we're going to talk about in this gear segment, out at the Hockey Shop, a source for sports in Surrey, was the Bauer 2S Pro line. And The two models below that, the S29, the senior retail model, and the S27, all three on sale. Great savings on all three. We've done some testing on it in addition to our regular testing at InGoal, where we did a preview and a review of the 2S Pro line. And of course, here at InGoal, we make sure we get it in the hands of everyone from beer leaguers to youth hockey players to junior A and major junior kids. And we tested the crap out of that Bauer 2S Pro line. But then when we got through sort of that 5-month cycle of testing with multiple people, we kept it on the ice for the past 2 years almost now on a every week basis, 3 to 5 times ice times, and really put it through the ringer. And it's really held up. The durability's been impressive for us. So this is an opportunity now as they get to set to introduce the next generation of Supreme to have big savings on that last line as they clear it out at the Hockey Shop, Source for Sports, and thehockeyshop.com. So definitely over the next couple of months, make sure you check them out online for savings on the previous generations as they load up on the new stuff. And it gives us a perfect opportunity to have Cam sort of break down some of the differences between the three different price points and some of the savings on this week's gear segment. Welcome back to the Hockey Shop, Source for Sports, out here in beautiful Surrey, British Columbia, outskirts of Vancouver. We're back in the basement of what I call a goalie heaven with Cam Matwiv. We're going to talk a little sale item. As much as we're all getting excited, Cam, about the impending new lines, including, we're starting to see it now in the NHL. We've had some pictures up, obviously, at the social media for InGoal Magazine. We've got our own set coming, the new Bauer Ultrasonic, which will replace the Bauer Supreme 2S line, sort of the next step in the Supreme family for Bauer. We're just going to leave that teased for now. But because that's coming, it's sale time on the Supreme line that preceded it, the Bauer 2S Pro line, the Bauer S29, S27. You've got some deals here. So let's first walk through the price points and then we'll walk through the line. Because I think a lot of us know about the 2S Pro line. We did our reviews. We've still got guys playing in it. The durability factor has been excellent. Not a lot of talk in that generation about the two lower price point pads. So first off, how much are we going to save right now? And then we'll go through the lines.
Okay, so right now we're going to be looking at the S29 in particular. They're on sale for $200 off in the senior model. So we're on sale for $799, so $800. It's a regularly $999 pad.
So $1,000 pad down to $800, and that's on the S29 model. First of all, let's go to the granddaddy. Let's go to the 2S Pro. What's the sale prices? That's normally a $2,000 pad. Right now at the Hockey Shop, Source for Sports, hockeyshop.com.
You are sitting at $1,599.99, so $1,600.
So $400 off the Bauer 2S Pro, and that's a pad that, like I said, we've done a review on. We still continue to play in that pad at InGoal Magazine, and have had a lot of success in terms of the performance of the pad has been maintained. We talked during the review about the knee block being more stable in relation to the face of the pad. They added the stitching there. That's held up over time. Glove, blocker, still rebounds absolutely flying off the pads, absolutely flying off the blocker, which is what we love. And the glove's been really durable. So you can get all those now on sale at thehockeyshop.com. As Cam said, $1,600 for the regularly priced $2,000 Bauer 2S Pro. If you like it, stock up on it. Now let's go to the next line, the S29. You mentioned the savings. What are the key differences here? Because obviously at InGoal, we've got the 2X, last year's model, the 2X Pro, the next price point down is actually being tested right now for us by a major bantam goalie. And again, a lot of the same feedback, very positive. We saw that it maintains that sliding surface that everyone loves, the Cortex sliding surface on the inside edge. Doesn't have the Cortex face. Is that the same with the S29, which is the Supreme line next step down?
That's correct. You see almost a lot of those same features that you find on the 2X, and also I would say subtractions necessarily, but leave outs to make it, priced where it needs to be. That said, it's a great option. It honestly, we were surprised it didn't do as well as it did. It kind of flew a little bit under the radar, I would say. But
that means you have leftovers. That's a good thing for people looking to save now.
Exactly. So if you want, if that's kind of your key that you're looking for, the S29, like one of the biggest features that it does have that the Cortex slide surface. So you're going to be ripping around the same way you would be if you were going to be wearing one of those 2S pads. The core isn't obviously the exact same as what the 2S. This has a bit more of a pre-curve to it as well, in comparison to the Pro Pad.
But still a nice thin profile.
Correct.
Doesn't have the Cortex skin on the face. Doesn't have the curved composite in it. So rebounds aren't like, it's not going to be as stiff, but it's still a thin, stiff profile pad. So they're still going to pop off there. Maybe not like the Pro version, but still a more active rebound overall.
Correct. Great looking face of the pad. Graphics actually stitched onto as well, as instead of being screen printed. Just to give it a nice rich look to it. So an awesome option if you're in the market for a new set of pads.
And on the glove and blocker side, what are the price point differences right now in terms of the sale on the S29 line? Again, for those just tuning in, as they say, this is the Bauer 2S Pro, the next step down, the senior model of it, the S29, which is on sale now at thehockeysshop.com, the Hockey Shop source for sports. What are the price points on the blocker glove?
So you're going to be looking at $260
He can't read his own writing, folks.
$255.99. There we go. Got it out. And then the blocker would be $240.
All right. So you're basically looking at around under $1,500 for a complete set right now of the S29. I had a look at the glove and blocker. Very similar feel to our 2S Pro line. The key difference is obviously no pour-on in the glove.
That's correct.
In terms of the materials just being a little bit less. You don't have the curved composite in there as well on the blocker or in the glove. And just a little, more sort of standard surface in terms of the grip on the inside. It doesn't have that sort of that grippy surface that comes in the Pro. But all in all, a really good pad. What about the S27, an even lower price point? What are some of the savings there and some of the options?
In terms of savings, for a senior set of pads, you're going to be looking at $560 for a set of pads, and then the glove and blocker, you would be at, I believe it's $184 and then $160 for the blocker.
So I'm going to put you on the spot here because math is a big thing. Can you add that up and tell me what a complete set comes to now, Cam?
Hold on, let me pull out my phone.
Carry the two.
You're going to beat me to it here, so.
I'm not even thinking about this. I'm totally relying on you. You are 100% on the spot here. This is a test, and you're failing. Your next salary will be based on your ability to add this up.
You caught me right on the top of my head. The first viewer to hand it out to me gets a gold star here.
All right, so just call Cam. He'll get you your discount price on those two items. Like we said, we're into that time of year where the new stock is coming. The new Bauer models that we've teased on Instagram that you've seen. James Reimer wearing in the NHL. We're starting to see it around the league. The new ultrasonic pads. Ben Bishop had a set at the Winter Classic, the outdoor game. As we see that come in, that means it's time at the Hockey Shop and thehockeysshop.com to clear out the old stuff. We're starting with the Supreme line. Bauer 2S Pro on sale, S29 on sale, S27 on sale. Make sure you check them out. They will go fast. As Cam said, probably flew under the radar. We were kind of all over promoting the 2X Pro and the lower price points there and what great features they had, and they sold quite well. A lot of those features are in this pad as well, so get on it before it's gone. Great opportunity to own a really high quality gear that'll get you through whether you're a beer leaguer or whether you're playing at the youth level and coming up. Like you said, we got it in Major Bantam right now being tested. More than halfway through a season, these kids are on the ice 5 times a week, no problems, durability holding up, performance holding up. This pad is cut from the same cloth, so to speak, and an opportunity to get a complete set. Pads, glove, and blocker for under $1,500. And that's Canadian.
That's correct.
That's Canadian. So good deals to be had at thehockeysshop.com. Make sure you check them out online at thehockeysshop.com because you're going to see more sales like this start in the coming months into February, into March, and into those new launches in April. Cam, thanks very much for breaking down this line for us and the sales. And if anybody has any questions, where can they get a hold of you and ask for you in person?
At the Hockey Shop, or you can give me a call at 604-589-8299.
Perfect. Cam, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Oh, it's like a glove hearing Woody and Cam chatting about gear again, and Woody putting him on the spot with prices and math, and it's awesome. He must just love you
Yeah, he really loved me putting him on the spot with the math there. The problem was he'd written down the prices, but I couldn't read his chicken scratcher. I would have done the math for him and bailed him out, but I couldn't read his writing. So the good news is, folks, when you call him at the hockey shop or check it out at thehockeyshop.com, those prices are all sort of listed there, and you don't have to worry about doing any math because Cam has a calculator handy and a computer in front of him, so he'll be able to figure it out for him. Don't worry. And if he can't figure it out, I figure you just get the savings, because if the math is wrong, just take the lower price and that's what you get.
Sizes, colors, setups, either call them at the Hockey Shop, source for sports Surrey, thehockeyshop.com, or go online at thehockeyshop.com, and it's all there for you. I'm on that website once a week, and I just find myself perusing different things. What do you think of the glove? Do you guys? Because I kind of like it.
Yeah, no, it's we're big fans of now. If you happen to like that, it's sort of the CCM equivalent would be the 600 break. Kind of closes like the old Vaughn 5500 model.
Yes.
A lot of sort of, I think of it, a lot of people used to sort of describe it as almost like a first baseman's mitt. It's a little more sort of the tip of your finger and index finger into the tip of your glove, as opposed to the fingers pulling into the palm or into the base of your thumb. So a little more finger closure on that glove. To me, that was a big step for Bauer. That glove was a notable improvement in past models. Take a little longer to break in than some other brands, but once we got it there, again, it's sort of held firm. It's got the curved composite in at the pro level. It's got the pour-on in there, so lots of protection. It's really held its shape nicely. As much as that firmness made it took a little longer to break in, it has held that shape nicely. Love the blocker. Just much like the pads, pucks rocket off it with the curved composite and sort of the stiffness of it. And we've talked to guys like Craig Anderson. He switched over to the Bauer this year, different model, but same principles in the blocker. And like he said, the ability to sort of turn his wrist and know that puck is going all the way up over the boards and out of play if he needs a whistle. There's definitely some benefit there. So if you go into the lower price points, the S29, I think Bauer, we're testing the 2X version of this, the next price point down. You don't get the same material on the face of the pad, so the rebounds might not be quite as crisp, but they're still a firm rebound. You do get the same material on the inside edge, and that's where that sliding comes from, that core.
Oh, good point.
That Cortex. So even though you're not buying the highest price point model, you still get that sort of active sliding and that firm surface that really creates frankly, some of the best sliding around. Like it to me, if you compare all the different surfaces, anecdotally, still the Bauer one is the one that seems to have the least friction. Not everybody loves that. Some people want a little more resistance, but it's kind of nice that you can get that at the second price point. And, if you're interested in these, I suggest you contact Cam at the Hockey Shop pretty quick. They've got a pretty good inventory left over, but I don't expect it to last at those prices. That S29, the glove has the same feel as the Pro model, just no curved composite and no pour-on, but you can get a complete set for about 1,300 Canadian plus taxes of that S29 model.
What?
Well, I mean, $1,000 pad, $200 off is $800, and the glove and blocker right now with the discount prices are $500. So I don't even have to be Cam. I can add $800 and $500 and get $1,300.
Not bad.
That's
Woody.
unbelievable. Yeah. Really good.
Unbelievable that I can do
good,
math.
And it's a good deal too, but really good math. But that's an unbelievable deal.
Especially for you Americans, Darren.
We got to be a little careful there, Hutch. I'm not sure they can ship that one across the border.
Oh, that's right.
Thanks to the restrictions of the Bauer and CCM and no cross-border shipping. But you could just contact me, pay me a little bump. I'll drive it across the border for you. I live in a border town.
Okay. We'll do. Actually, you know what? I'm not messing around with anything immigration-ish.
No, don't fool around.
I will pay. I will pay.
For the people at the border, I do have Nexus, and I was just kidding. The
glove is the one thing that last few years I've used probably a 1 or 2 year old glove, and because we all like the newest and the greatest.
Of course.
But the gloves is something that I haven't had trouble using a couple of year old model. That's just me. What about the CCM line? That's coming out too.
Yeah, I was just going to say, as they were talking about Bauer, it turns out that we've had CCM's new Access line on the ice now for a little over a week. It's had some test sessions at beer league, minor hockey, AAA, even junior A over the last little week. And so far feedback is fantastic. And, full disclosure, my son is the major tester of this set right now. And he was very skeptical going in. In fact, I resisted CCM sending it along a little bit because he's a tried and true E-Flex man. And he put these on and he loved them the first time he wore them and didn't want to take them off. So really, really good sign for us with that line. So expected.
Didn't he shovel snow in them too?
Yeah, we had our first test session set up, and Nanaimo, BC, one of the warmest parts of the country, was hammered with a snowstorm for a few days there, and we couldn't get to the rink for practice that day. Well, we could get to the rink. Practices were canceled that day. So we just decided we'd have a little fun and do a bit of a photo shoot. We posted one photo that Hockey Canada picked up and put up on their account of Maddie shoveling out in the driveway. And we've got several more that will be coming out early next week when CCM allows publication of
It was a
general
nice
photos.
turco grip on the backhand with the shovel.
I know, and that was all him. I didn't set up any of that, so it was pretty cool. I just brought my camera outside, and he decided to have some fun. So that was pure Matty. It was great. He's a character.
And that, before you send your angry emails to Hutch about the massive snowstorm, if you happen to be from the Maritimes, that footer, we know it wasn't a massive snowstorm, but for us soft West Coasters,
BC massive.
That's by our standards, that's massive to the rest of
It
Canada.
was legit.
Like the rest of Canada, we get it. We're a joke. You can laugh at us, but just don't bug us with the complaint email.
No, it was a legit West Coast snowstorm. The Army was not called in. The best line that I heard from Atlantic Canada and what happened to St. John's is with the Army being called in, they can't make fun of Toronto anymore because when the Army was called in there in 1999, I was there for that one. It was nasty, but still didn't require the Army to be called in. That turco grip, it's just strange how you pick up on certain things and you watch that. Was that the game stick though that young Maddie was using?
That was the game shoveling stick. Yeah, we'd had a practice shovel going on before that, but this was the real deal for the camera, so we had to pull out the game shovel for sure.
Wait, you guys don't have two shovels either?
I said we do. We had
shovel.
We had the practice shovel out before. Yeah, no problem.
There's a lot of stuff being shoveled here right now.
Yeah, this may surprise you, but I left my shovels at home when I moved to Nevada. Just if I need one, I'll just go out and purchase one. But Woody, you broke your game stick, so we should pause and just have a moment here because you had to use your warm up stick in an actual game, and I just can't imagine how much of a challenge that was for you to adjust.
I did manage to pull it off, though. I'm pleased to report that. And because I had my warm-up stick, as you guys are so fond of calling it, or as I just call it, a second stick at the game, when there was a pile up.
You use a stick in warm-up. You use a stick in warm-up, and then you change sticks and use a different stick in the game. Okay. That's not taking two sticks to a game and just using one. That's having a warm-up stick and a game stick in men's league hockey.
That's because I know how precious my E-Flex 4 stick was. I fell in love with that twig, and I never wanted it to break, so I didn't use it in warm-ups. I didn't want it to get broken. We've been over this, boys, and now that it's broken, I'm quite sad. I like that stick so much that I actually went to the hockey shop to buy my own, and obviously here at InGoal, we get a fair amount of gear. We don't usually have to go purchase, and clearly I'm not the only one that likes that stick, because Cam was freaking sold out.
Wow.
Really?
Livid. He had
I get it though. That's a great twig.
One 26-inch paddle left. It was a price pattern, which I can live with. Not my preferred, but I could live with it. But it was in red, and I'm a total prima donna. Red doesn't match my team colors. Can't go that way.
You didn't buy it?
Of course I didn't buy it. It was red.
You are a beauty.
I'm a total diva. I knew you guys would have a field day with that, and I knew I shouldn't have admitted it out loud, but it's true.
That's worth re-recording this podcast. Right there. That's absolutely it.
I wanted to bring a little extra to you guys to make your night after totally screwing it up.
Wow.
He
does not buy the stick.
You're not even tall enough for a 26 anyway, Woody.
Yeah, who are you kidding? David Leggio is not the tallest goaltender in professional hockey, just shy of 6 feet, and he parlayed a good college career into a really good professional run in both North America and Europe. But he's most famous for what he did while facing a 2-0 after he looked down at a 3-0 by the Russian team. It's a long, sordid story, but as Woody alluded to earlier, it may have made him famous, but there's so much below the surface for David Leggio. Here is our feature interview presented by Source for Sports, The Hockey Shop, and thehockeyshop.com. David Leggio in conversation with David Hutchison.
So he's won a championship with Clarkson University, where he earned the league's top goalie award. He's been an American League starter. He's twice represented his country at the World Championships and at the 2018 Olympics in South Korea. He's won a Finnish League championship, a German League championship. Oh, and you might know him because 2 leagues changed the rules as a result of, shall we say, his creative play. But more on that later. David Leggio, welcome to InGoal Radio.
Thank you for having me. And sometimes I'll start, my introduction as you might know me from such YouTube clips as, So yeah, that's fun. Thank you for that intro, and thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I felt a little reluctant to talk. Didn't even know if you'd be comfortable talking about it till I went to your Twitter profile and I saw that you put in there that you're a net tipper or something like that. So
yeah,
so great to be able to talk
I
about
took
that
that
later.
off for a while, and especially in the German league, they got mad. But I did it just to help my team win a game, and now I'm not in the German league. So I think you could have fun with it. It's over, and that's it. It's done.
Well, let's save the fun stuff for last, and let's start at the beginning where we do with most goaltenders. And the question is, how did you end up a goaltender? What's your origin story? So many people have a common one, little brother attracted by the gear, whatever it might be. How'd you get in the net?
Yeah, it's kind of a combination of all that. Well, first off, I grew up, my grandfather on my mom's side was Russian. So when I grew up, my favorite player was Alexander McGillney and Pat LaFontaine, growing up in Buffalo, New York. And as like a mite or house 5, 6, 7-year-old, I was playing forward and I was a goal hanger. So I was the complete opposite of what I turned into. And in the neighborhood, I had 2 older cousins, 2 years and 4 years older. So whenever they asked me to play hockey, I had to start in goal. That was the deal. Like you could start as a goalie, and then halfway through you could play forward. And sometimes halfway through never happened. But I wasn't really afraid of the ball at that time. And I mean, looking back, nowadays, I think if kids are playing street hockey, if my son's going to go out and play street hockey, I'd probably put a helmet on the goalie. I mean, we're taking clappers with the frozen tennis ball in the street and, in the face. I remember I hit once in the lip, and I had a travel game when I was in Bantams. My lip was exploded. My coach was like, "What are you doing?"
Oh, no.
But anyway, so I went to tryouts for the Mite travel team, and we didn't have a goalie for the tryout, and my dad wasn't there. My mom took me, which was rare. My dad always went, and I played goalies because, I don't know, I was a dumb kid. I just didn't know it was a tryout, maybe. Who knows? So I played goalie, and they're like, "All right, you made the team as a goalie." And I was like, "Well, yeah," because no one else tried out. So I got home, I told my dad, "Yeah, I made the team." He's like, "Oh, defense or forward?" I did play a little D, of course. Everyone plays different positions.
Yep.
And it's a goalie. And I think his jaw hit the floor. You could see the dollar bills flying out of his pants as we spoke. So
no doubt.
So that's how I got into it. But I just loved the game, whether it was goalie or forward. I still would play roller hockey in the summer as a forward and stuff like that. But so that's how it got going.
So is that roller hockey in the summer up to what age did that continue, and did that help you as a goaltender?
I think it did. I don't think it ever really stopped. I mean, it kind of like roller or street hockey in the summer probably stopped when, maybe like college when guys stopped doing that, getting jobs or whatever. I would play men's league in the summers as a forward. Actually, in high school, I played 2 games forward for my high school team, and I scored a couple goals. Great passes from my buddies. More tap-ins than anything, but I think it did. I think it did help quite a bit. I don't know. And when I watched the game, I know talking to some goalie coaches and stuff, we would watch the game and they'd be watching the goalie. And I would always watch the goalie, but I'd more watch the play develop, and especially shootouts and breakaways and stuff. I always try to watch what the guys are doing and kind of what their intentions are and stuff. But definitely playing a bit of hockey as a forward helped with all that.
We've sort of alluded to it already, and you talking about your parents and offline before we talked about goalie coaching, but who did support your development growing up, both from a coaching and obviously on the home front standpoint?
Home front standpoint, definitely my parents. lower middle class family, two of the hardest working people you'd ever meet, and two people that would, put their kids ahead of themselves at any moment. So that was probably my biggest, idols growing up. And as far as coaching, we didn't have really goalie coaching in Buffalo at that time. I'm 35. We have a good amount now, which is great. Some great options for the guys coming up. So in the summer, I think I went to some different camps, Sabres camp, Pelafontaine's camp, and I worked with somebody. But then going into my minor Pee Wee year, I went to John Elkins camp in Toronto. So I did that for a week every summer. And then when I finally got to Clarkson University, after my freshman year, a guy on my team referred me to Siddharthan Maharaj, who's now the head goalie coach at Anaheim Ducks. Sudsy. And Sudsy was an absolute game changer for me, where, you go to – and I never had goalie coaches during the year, like ever. And maybe an occasional guy would come and help out here and there. But I never had like that tutelage. So basically I would take whatever I learned that week at Elkins and then try to learn on my own and try to just apply what I learned that week to my practice. And I worked very hard. And that's something that John's camp really taught me, was to work extremely hard. So that was kind of my MO for a while. But working with Sudsy was a huge game changer. Just the way he thinks the game. I think he's an absolute genius. And so I saw him for several summers. I would say probably around the time I started playing in Germany, that kind of stopped. And when we tried to connect with his schedule in mind, we never were able to get back together. We still stay in touch to this day. And then aside of that, I had some amazing goalie coaches throughout my pro year. So that would start with going over to Turku with Urpo Yolonen, Upi. I think you guys talked about him a little bit with working with Kiprasov and Nidomaki, these guys. Like, so he completely changed how I looked at the game, especially with hands and angles. And he was the first guy that introduced me to box control, or whatever you would call it. And then worked with Jim Corsi in Buffalo, who was great, especially on the mental side. Bob Janos in Rochester, who was a Buffalo guy. So we would work together throughout my career as well in the off season, even after I left Buffalo. Scotty Murray, when I was in Hershey, he was at Washington now. We still stay in touch. Yeah. A phenomenal guy. And then going to Munich, working with Patrick Dallaire, who really helped me with post play and kind of changed my game to the European style, which is kind of how it's played now, with a little more east-west. I had to bring in my aggressiveness a bit. And while I was with Patrick, actually, Francois Allaire came and worked with us for a week. So I've been blessed with in-season goalie coaches, and I don't think it's really a coincidence that some of the years where I didn't have a guy the whole year, I had maybe more ups and downs than the years where I had Bob or Patrick or Scotty. So, I'm rambling a little bit, but once I got to pro, I was really lucky. And obviously, when I was still at Clarkson working with Sudsy in the summer, but to have somebody helping you throughout the whole year, and to be a little bit of a soundboard at times too, because I was a bit fiery for a large part of my career. But I was lucky to have those guys.
Takes a village to raise a goaltender.
It sure does.
Yeah.
Especially a guy like me.
Wow. Where to even start peeling that back? We've heard so many great things about Sudsy, and he actually wrote a couple of articles for us way back when we first got it started, more on the history of the game than anything. Mm-hmm. But so what is it about him that helped change you so much? And can you give us an example of what a session like him is, how it's different?
The first thing I could say, and I actually recently called him to ask him, because I've been doing goalie coaching for a while myself, but nobody gets their point across more clear than Sudsy. So he has a teaching background as well. It's like, the what, the when, and the why in 3 sentences. Like that dialogue is so incredibly efficient when you're on the ice. So like, for example, you need to go to the post here because of this, this, and this. And like, you don't even have a question in your mind. You're like, okay, that makes sense. And it's just the way he breaks it down. It's simple. It's complex, but it's simple at the same time. At that time in my career, again, I was over aggressive. That was always kind of a trait where I walked the line. We were just talking about going from my sophomore year of college, where I was like, just became a starter, 9-1-3 maybe, to my junior year, mm-hmm. where I had my best year, ECAC and championship and first team, 930, and just basically just using the post, staying inside the post, making sure that there's no open nets. That was one very Like it was a simple thing, but at the time, big thing. But stuff with the hands, like hands forward. He was one of the first guys that really taught me about getting your hands forward over the puck. I was way more handsy back then, so he would have taught me a little bit differently than some other guys. I remember skating with Scott Wedgwood back then, where Scott was going, more with his body, and I would lead more with my hands, like because he's worked with such a wide range of goaltenders that he's able to teach. He doesn't have one way, like most good goalie coaches, they don't have one way. So, it's tough to go back because the game's evolved so much since we really worked together a lot. But I think it's the way you guys point across to sum it up was just so efficient and so clear that you never had any question, and you're able to carry that on and know exactly when or why to implement it.
I think that teaching background has got to be huge.
Yeah.
To be a great communicator. So, and talking about school then, so you went on to Clarkson University, and what's that process like where you go from being a minor hockey player to going into university? We often talk about what's it like at university, but can you tell us a bit about how you came to choose Clarkson and what that whole thing was like?
Yeah. I mean, for me, it was it was easy. It wasn't. I grew up, Todd Marchand's dad was my coach in Pee Wee, and always remained in touch with them. And at that time, again, like not a lot of internet going on. There's no internet going on. We didn't really know a lot of universities, so Clarkson was instantly on my radar. Went junior, played 2 years junior in the EJHL for the CD Selects, same team that Scott Darling played for after I was there. And I didn't have any scholarship offers. Like I had Army, and I had a couple of lower D1 teams that had some interest, and then I had a bunch of D3. So Sean Weller was a guy on my team, a third rounder to Ottawa, my junior team, and they had him committed already, so they were at my games more, and basically talked them into taking me as a recruited walk-on. So the process was difficult for me. Like I got there, and my first, like the captain's practices before the coaches got on the ice, I didn't stop a puck. Like I wasn't even sure if I was going to make the team. And then even the assistant coach, who's a phenomenal guy, I had asked about gear. Like a dumb kid. I wanted to stick with my name on it. And he's like, well, you should make the team first. And I was like, yeah, I should. Okay. So
not a bad idea.
I had to really adjust to that level. And, but at the same time, that was the first time I had access to ice, like at any time. So me and my classmates, really awesome class. Grant Klitzman ended up playing a long time in the NHL. Steve Zaleski played some games. Sean Weller had a long career. And we would go on the ice before every practice, 30, 45 minutes, do goalie or scoring drills, practice. And I was the third or second goalie the whole year, but the starter didn't like to take a lot of shots in practice. So I got tons of shots in practice, then would stay on and do more shots. So that was a real big acceleration where I only started 2 games that year and played 5, but I probably quadrupled my practice time in that season alone, and from what I did in any other year. And then obviously the quality was 1,000 times better. So I really need to make that adjustment as a recruited walk-on, and then have a chance to compete as a sophomore for the starting job. Some
good advice in there for kids, I think, from your experience as they struggle going through.
Yeah, I mean, you could use every cliche you want, like about the journey and the process and all that. I mean, working with athletes now, you can't put a timeline on it. I felt like I was close at that time. I wanted to play so bad, and I think my parents gave me that mindset. Kind of a big chip on my shoulder the majority of my career, if not all of it. But yeah, I mean, you just got to find a way. And if you want it more than other guys or girls, there's a good chance you're going to get it. At some point, it just might take longer than you want, but you're going to get to where you want to be.
We talked a little bit about technique, talked a little bit about some changes in your game. I think you're listed at 5'11", not the largest goaltender on the planet these days. How did that affect you, and how did you deal with that? It's interesting because you described yourself as a over-aggressive goaltender in the start, and that all got reeled in. Mm-hmm. Are you able to make a balance there with your size and aggressiveness and control? And how do you do that? And how did you evolve as a goaltender?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm a little closer to 6 feet, but that's fine. I mean, it doesn't matter now. But
sorry, your hockey height is 6 feet.
It's okay. Yeah, so I think that when I went to Finland, that was the first time that Upi introduced the ropes to me. Like the box control. That's where I really learned to optimize my positioning, and you learn the law of diminishing returns. And at that time, I mean, guys would kind of just come down the wing and just blast it, So even in Finland, I would play like 2 feet out of the crease. I mean, I see random clips from college where I'm like 2 or 3 feet out of the crease. Where now, I would be heels at the top maybe, and then rely a little bit more on shifting and tracking. So, and then Upi taught me a lot about hands and catching more pucks. And I always kind of had my fingers up. I didn't really understand why I dropped low pucks. And then teaches you about neutral wrist position, and that's getting technical. But yeah, so
it's a goalie audience. You can get as technical as you want.
Yeah, we can. And going back like with Sudsy, like just talking about hip positioning, how to rotate your hips, what position to get your blade in when you're rotating and pivoting. Stance width, keeping that width, keeping balance. And even like your blade, if your skate blade's too high in the front, you're going to have to overcompensate with rotation. If it's like a millimeter higher on the front part of your skate than your back, you have to overcompensate, or, little things like that. But how I evolved was that I think I just became more and more conservative with my positioning, and probably more and more conservative with my movements. And that was probably as indicative of the game, where the game's gone. Where I was just watching some clips a couple days ago, Braden Holtby, and some of the saves he's making where it's like east west middle, and then a shot from the hash marks. Like, I didn't really happen like 8 or 9 years ago, So, and that's where like that patience and shifting comes in. Definitely becoming more and more and more patient as time went on. Especially, we did a lot of shifting work in Munich with Pat Delaire. We did a lot of more, I don't know what you would call it, down tracking or just tracking with your head, which is what I really like to teach. Just keeping your head on the puck, letting the head dictate your rotation, when to go and how much to go. So that would be it. I think just over time I get more and more conservative, where it helped me in the American League be a little bit more aggressive because of my size. And I was learning how to blend what I learned in Finland, where, there's a little bit of like, like that telescoping, a little bit of that drifting, maybe a pass to the slot. And I wouldn't grab my edges super quick. But now, like that pass to the slot, it could be another pass. So if I did that now, I'd probably get toasted, more times than not. So you just have to learn to, play a little more on the crease now. And that's what I learned to do, and definitely learned to use my post a ton. I used the post towards the end of my career a ton, just on recoveries, or just a lot more reverse, where, I used to use the VH a lot because of my size. But yeah, I mean, another long-winded answer, but the game has just it's become so fast and so east-west. Like, you have to have feet. I think everyone likes the big goalie, but you see the big goalies in the NHL now, they can move. If you can't move nowadays, you really can't play. If anything, some of the rule changes with the pads, I think, have helped people because you can move better. And that's why you see so many good goalies in the NHL now. They can move, and they're big and they're athletic. So it's fun to watch.
Wow. I think we could talk for days about all that technical stuff. It's too bad we can't get into it, but maybe there'd be some future articles on InGoal we could do together. I love listening to all of that. So you went from Clarkson, you went to pro hockey, and several years in the American League. And I was just looking through, and there's a lot of names you played with there. Jeff Glass, Brian Elliott, Ray Emery, Jonas Enroth, Grubauer, Neuwirth, McKenna, Deming, and Hudobin. Good season with him in the East Coast. Yeah.
That's right.
So who were some of the characters that you enjoyed working with, and are you still in touch with anybody?
I'm trying to think if you forgot anybody. Grubauer, Kevin Poulin, even.
Well, I got a few more.
Kevin Poulin and Bridgeport, yeah. Well, it's funny. I actually just left yoga. I just ran into Jonas at yoga here in Buffalo.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, so it was good to see him. Connor Knapp was, not as big of a name as some of those guys, but I just talked to him on the phone yesterday. But I got along with pretty much all of my partners, which was phenomenal. And actually, another name I'll throw out there was our third goalie for TPS was Yoni Ortio, who had some time.
Okay, yeah, that's right. I saw that too. Yeah,
but that was we had me, him, and Ati Engren, who was a pretty good prospect, played in the American League for a year. But no, that competition was phenomenal. Like, to be in the coast with Anton, it was like, all right. I think 1 month he was goalie of the month, and then the next month I was, or vice versa. We lived together for a little while. I seen him at the World Championships in Minsk in 2014, and Tim Thomas was the other goalie. I guess we'll put Tim Thomas on the list there too.
There's another one, yeah.
Connor Hellebuck was our another goalie that was there that year, and in 2010 it was Bishop and Clemenson. Clemenson, one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet in your life. Not to say the other guys weren't, but
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I had incredible competition every year, but always healthy. Like with Anton, he wasn't a guy that felt like he needed to play every single game. I think he kind of understood at a young age that like rest is important and that you can get burnt out. And we both had to be really on our game every time we played because we did have a good team, and it wasn't just about winning. We had to win and play really well to get the next start. But our coach really would only play one of us 2 in a row. So, there was times where like if Anton got a shutout, I didn't really feel like, I think sometimes when you get in a competition with a guy, it's just human nature to be like, oh, I hope he doesn't do great tonight. I never really felt that way with a lot of guys, and especially now with Anton, because we knew that if the other guy played one more, we'd be right back in there. So in a lot of the teams that I was on, it was like with Grubauer and Hershey, we played so many 3-and-3s that if I was a starter at the time, like I might play 2 out of 3 in the weekend, but he wasn't going to play a game. So you never were really losing your job. Drew McIntyre, another name there. But
so what do you think about coaches these days that employ the old win and you're in?
I hate it.
That's sort of the opposite of
yeah. And we kind of had that in Munich, but it was a lot healthier. When you play up to 3 games every time you win, and then there was like a goals against thing. It was me and Danny Ostenbergen, and he was the goalie that won the silver with Germany, another phenomenal goalie. So there's so much that goes into it. It doesn't make sense to me to say in one position of your team that only the results matter, only the team results matter. Like you would never take your number 1 center and say, hey, we lost the game, you're on the 4th line.
That's right.
So, again, like the position itself as goaltenders is so healthy nowadays when you get to the pro level that it's very rare that you find you have a goalie at, say, the AHL that can't play, that isn't as maybe there's probably not a big difference in ability or work ethic. Obviously, like to me, like who am I playing on Friday night? I'm playing the guy that gives us the best chance to win. And there's a lot of factors that go into that. It shouldn't be what the result was the game before. If I have a lazy guy that's a bad teammate and isn't as good as my starter, but he wins a game, like does he deserve to get back in there? I don't think so. But I think it makes a lot more sense that you're seeing more 50-50 splits at the NHL or 60-40s. I think it makes more sense that you're getting guys in there that are more rested. They're not playing guys back to back. I think it takes a little bit of stress off each individual goalie. But there's so many good guys that you don't need to bombard a guy. But there are teams that you have absolute workhorses that need to work a lot and they give your team a better chance to win. So I would rather see a bigger picture view when you're starting your goalies, and also not to play a guy 10 in a row, because then the guy sits there and rots and it's not good for anybody. But yeah, I mean, honestly,
we always talk about the physical side of that and rest, but you brought it up right in the beginning when you talked about your relationship with other guys, and it's a mindset thing as well. It just creates that better mindset environment for both goaltenders.
Right. And I mean, I had a year in Rochester where I played 64 in the lockout, and for me, it was phenomenal because I really loved being in there. And I remember one time I got mad that I wasn't playing a game, and like I took a deep breath and I was like, played like the last 10 in a row. I mean, I really don't like Dave, calm down. Because I had a bit of an edge to me, but honestly, all the guys you mentioned, like I think we made each other better, and I learned from every single guy. Like going back to Dobie, like he used to play like Nabokov. That was his mentor. I think when he was with Magnitogorsk. So I watched him and learn. Playing with Jonas Enroth, smaller guy, but like one, his hands were always going forward, and 2, he had the optimal positioning at all times. Like pucks would just graze off his shoulder. And in Portland, the shot clock guy wasn't that great. I mean, he probably should have been a 920 instead of a 910, because pucks would graze off his shoulder. He was in perfect position and he wouldn't get credit. Gruby, I mean, I think you have to learn from these guys, the good habits, and they definitely helped me quite a bit. I mean, it definitely hurt me in some areas where, Gruby was a super great up and coming goalie and I didn't get the call up, but that's the way it goes, I mean, he was, you could see what he was going to be, and look what he's doing now. I mean, he's making an argument for one of the best goalies in the league.
Okay. So here we go. November 2nd, 2014. It's the day after November 1st that we've coined International Goalie Day. So it's kind of fun that it's that day. Take us through what happened when you were with the Bridgeport Sound Tigers.
Well, let's see. We got to rewind the year before. We're playing,
Okay.
I'm playing at Hershey, and I don't know who it was in Syracuse. We got to a Syracuse game late, and there was a 2-0 goal when they scored. 2-0 they scored.
Okay.
So now we're playing in Hershey, and it was a guy I played with in Bridgeport, Harry Zolnershek, and I believe Brian Gibbons came in on a 2-0. Both very fast players, and they scored. And I'm like, I've had a good success in the shootout statistically. So I'm like, all right, I feel comfortable in the shootout. What's the rule? So I asked the ref that night, and he told me. And then I asked a different ref, and I asked a different ref. I'm like, okay, the rule is to delay a game and a penalty shot. I'm like, I'm 0 for 2 and 2-0s. I think my save percentage in the shootout the year before was 80, 85, 90, somewhere in there. 90 maybe, I don't even know. But that's not important. I mean, say it's 80, it's a lot better than 0 with 2-0s.
Mm-hmm.
Then I go to World Championships, and I'm going against Russia, and there's a 2 or 3-0 with Ovechkin. I mean, I think that if you're a betting man, you can pause that one and throw a couple bucks at Obi and Tikhonov to score, and they
Probably. Yeah.
Wasn't going to do it then because I didn't know the rule international, and I don't know if I really would have liked my chances when I won with Obi. So I kind of just put it in my brain, and then the next year, the way our power play breakout was a drop pass, and the guys were ahead. So when our guy Alan Klein lost the puck, I knew that they had 2 guys coming, like no one's gonna catch him. So I don't know, something in my head clicked, and I tossed it off, and I guess I did the old school penalty shot sign. Marty Brown was saying on TSN, he loved it. It was just it was the old school.
You called it.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I called it, and so he got the penalty shot. I stopped it, and then we went on to lose the game, and that was kind of like this summary of my season. Like from there, just couldn't get a break from the rest of the year on. But yeah, so
what was the reaction of the locker room, and more importantly from your coach?
At first, my coach was just mad about the fact that we were up 2-1, and now we're down, I think 4-1 or 4-3. And,
right.
He was like, oh, we're not back checking. Our goalie's tossing our net in the corner. I was like, I look over, some guys are laughing, and I'm like, oh, crap, I hope we win this game. I really do, because we were pretty up and down that year, and then we were really down. But so after the game, I was stretching, and he came over and was like, hey, that was actually pretty smart. Like, I didn't really realize at the time that was pretty smart. Like, good job. And then, then kind of the firestorm after that ensued. But Germany didn't take it as kindly as the North Americans. I think.
Yeah. So fast forward 3 more years to you're playing for Red Bull in Germany, and another 2-0.
Yeah, it's our 2-0, and again, I didn't think I would do it. It just, again, and I try to stress this, especially in the German media. And I didn't really talk to anybody until well after the fact, and I was just trying to win the game. I took a delayed game penalty. It's like in the old days, you should toss the puck over the glass, and they made it a penalty. I remember in Bantam, so you should just, you're in trouble, chuck it over the glass. Just don't hit your mom, and yeah, and so here we are, knock it out.
And what goalie hasn't knocked the post off before?
Oh,
I mean, we've all knocked the post off. We've all blown a strap accidentally.
Yeah.
What's the difference?
Yeah, I'll knock a water bottle off the net. No, there's so many cameras, you can't get away with it. You can't eat popcorn when you're sitting, and you can't get away with anything. But they didn't like it as much. They thought I disrespected the game. The team we played against, Bremerhaven, their assistant coach was chirping me on Twitter, said I don't know, I disrespected the sacred game of hockey, something like that. It was actually not funny that I had a season-ending injury and against that team later in the year, right after the Olympics. So they were all, booing me and screaming at me when I was late on the ice. But I mean, they didn't take it as kindly. But what are you going to do? You can't make everybody happy. I don't think any of our fans really cared. None of my teammates really cared. So, it was a little stressful. It was the Olympic year. I really want to make the Olympic team, obviously. And, I was worried about getting kicked out of the league. So, fortunately, they didn't kick me out of the league. And
you thought that might happen?
Yeah, they were really mad. They were really mad.
Yeah.
I mean, it's public knowledge that they fined me. And,
Yep.
I really tried to squash everything at the time. I didn't think it was, to be honest, I didn't think it was fair. I think it hurt my reputation going forward in that league. where I always felt like I was an honest guy. I put in an honest day's work and was a good teammate and worked hard and just tried to win. And even in times when I wasn't playing, I tried to be a good teammate, and I think that in Germany, I kind of got a bad rap because of it. And I don't mind that when it happened in the American League, I just thought I was doing something smart and people didn't take it too serious. But in Germany, I kind of regret it just because of the backlash. I think it gave me like an unfair, I think people just viewed me differently in a way I don't like. So, but nothing to do about it now.
That's too bad.
Yeah. What are you going to do?
No, got a couple rules named after you. You got to feel good about that.
Yeah, is it good to be infamous? I don't know.
I don't think it's infamous in the goalie community anyway. And like I said, we're only talking to goaltenders.
Yeah,
here.
we're all logical, normal people as goalies, right? We're
100%.
Very sane.
You got any other rules in your back pocket that you might have pulled out at one point if you ever had the opportunity? Something we should be thinking about?
No, but I do. I really wish that they implemented some pegs in minor hockey though, because
no kidding.
I watched a few games, some of my students, and whether it's on purpose or not, guys try to use the reverse or they just try to recover the post, and the posts are going everywhere. I don't know what the answer is, but it'd be nice if they could fix that.
Well, there are answers out there, better pegs. And I mean, we saw at the World Championships for women using inappropriate pegs that were costing goals.
Oh, really?
I saw the Canadian under-17s play with just Bush League minor hockey posts. It's terrible. And, the one that drives me crazy, of course, is the referees come up and threaten to give you a penalty the next time it happens, as if you're supposed to change how you're taught to play.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so it's that's one thing. Like coach, like the two of the goalies I teach, one's 6'7", one's like 6'5", and
wow,
does it make any sense for him to VH, below the hash mark? I mean, you could, but a lot of situations I say, yeah, let's reverse. They're good at the reverse when we use anchor pegs or whatever. And then I watch him in the game, and like the one goal, they're playing Salisbury. The one goal, he went into the post, and the post moved, and they scored. I mean, the kid's trying to play D1 hockey and get noticed, but he can't play the way he works so hard at. So you hope they'll find a way. I don't know all the companies that do it. I know it has to be safe for the players too. That's definitely super important. But you hope that they find a way to make it universal. They get rid of these like simple pegs that you just pound the ice once and they move everywhere.
100%. It's not good for anybody.
No.
So going back to your Euro career, I just doing a little background research and saw that you had a pretty horrible concussion while you were over there that you described as sort of life-changing, and that stood out to me.
Mm-hmm.
What was life-changing about it? Because this is something that's obviously in the forefront of conversation now for everybody, and I think goaltenders are more vulnerable than ever. What happened and what was the experience like?
Well, yeah, so we're 2 games after the Olympics. I actually came back early because with the success of Germany, we were missing tons of players, including my goalie partner. So played a game in Berlin, then 2 days later played in Bremerhaven, and I slid. I probably actually could have shaken my feet, but it was like a east-west pass. The guy caught it, tried to reverse his angle, but instead of going like forehand, backhand, he turned his hip, and it caught my head, really turned my neck back. And I was like knocked out quickly, but like back to where like I kind of like zapped out and then felt myself hit the ice. And I was laying there and I was like kind of not really moving for a second and started to get back. And then trainer came out and the doctor from the other team, like I said, it's a very hostile territory for me because of the not flipping thing. They're all cheering and booing.
Right.
So I said some not nice words to the doctor, which probably should say I'm sorry for, because he wanted me to leave the game, and I was like, nah, get away from me, like I'm gonna hurt you, something that wasn't appropriate. So but in between periods, my physio guy, it was really late in the period, so in between periods our physio was like, Dave, like we'd already clinched first place, like we're in Bremerhaven, like if you're not sure, which I don't think you're sure, and I want you to get out of the game. So I was like, all right, yeah, you're right, okay, let's just. And then after like things really started to slow down for me, like I could tell I wasn't okay. So I went to the hospital, stuff like that. And, I had some mild concussions before. And not that any concussions ever mild. I had some before. And it was like, 1 or 2 weeks. And we were going to the playoffs, and we were the number 1 seed by far. And I was, all right, I'm going to take like some time off and then, start getting back into it, and I'll be fine. And I went through what their procedure was at the time. And it was off the ice, it was biking, and it was some lifting, and when I did the on ice, I did a goalie session. I got off the ice and like I was sick. I couldn't really see. Everything was spinning. I had terrible vertigo. And I mean, I had some problems before, but I knew I was in one, So at that time, they don't have quite the same procedures as we do back home. So I was just trying to throw anything I could at the wall and make it stick, that I was reading about online. And I was just going through a lot of tough things. Like I couldn't walk, at the time our son was 1.5 or 2, couldn't really go walk around the park without getting dizzy and without like feeling sick, terrible nausea, anxiety. Like I'd be sitting on the couch and I would get this crazy anxiety, and I never ever felt anxiety in my life. I'm very like easygoing, like to have fun. I mean, you get nervous for games and stuff like that, but like just some things I never had before. And then just like rage, like I would get angry like at these crazy things, like not even with people. Like I mean, like I don't know, bump into the wall myself and just like go nuts. Like, it didn't never at anybody else, but just a lot of like these crazy feelings I never had. So after 6 weeks, I got to go to a clinic there, and they concluded that I had a concussion. And we did some tests. We did tests and stuff like that, especially the reaction test was really, really altered. So when I did a bunch of research, and I got home, and I'd already had an appointment set up with Dr. Leggio, who's a concussion expert at the University of Buffalo. It's literally, a 3-wood away from my house. So went to see him, and his big thing is he prescribes exercise. So you test on the treadmill, and as your symptoms increase with this exercise and with your heart rate, once they increase to a certain point, you train under that level. So that was step one. So like I was training to get 100 beats per minute. And then I was seeing this guy, Jake McPherson, who was phenomenal. He was like a vestibular ocular therapist. So just doing a lot of different movements with balls or with, balance. Because my balance was all messed up. My what's it called? With the vertigo in your ear was all messed up. So like I did this marching test where you close your eyes and you march for 50 paces. And you're supposed to be pretty much square to where you were when you start. And the first time I did it, I was like in the corner at like 7 o'clock, So working on all that stuff. And then I saw an upper cervical chiropractor, a very specialized guy in Buffalo named Dr. Jeremy Rademacher, who works with the area between your upper cervical and your brain. It's a connective tissue. And that was game changing as well. That really helped just accelerate my progress. So I started doing that. I started to gradually feel better. I was cleared to skate without like contact in early July, I think it was. So I would go out with one of my students and we just do goalie drills and just tell a guy like, just, hey, me shoot low. So I was just tracking pucks, and that eye movement and all that really is supposed to help with the recovery, as long as it doesn't, amplify the symptoms too much. And then I think by the end of July, early August, I was cleared to go full bore, because once you test and your heart rate is, max 170, 180 for me, then you're cleared. And I still had some lingering issues, especially as the season went on last year. And I didn't have my upper cervical guy, but for the most part, playing wise, it was good. I mean, there's certain things about me that maybe aren't perfect. I feel like it's just been a little slower climb to get some things 100% back just on a day-to-day, with memory or with not just little things. It's hard to really describe, but I mean, I would say it's just the tip of the iceberg, and I feel like I'm getting there with everything. But like I said, I was cleared to play. I felt good enough to play, and I felt like I played at a pretty high level last year too. So, I was lucky to have all those guys helping me. But I try to tell guys that when they get even the minors of concussions, especially in town, just go get checked out, test it, because I think and this is just a theory, and I'm not a doctor. I had some concussions in the past that were more neck related. I don't think I ever fixed it, and I think that this was not only from that one incident, but it was also like a culmination of some things I had before, where I got a concussion in camp in Buffalo from a shot to the chin, and that was the first time I ever got migraines. And I don't think that's a coincidence, but there wasn't that technology to fix it back then. So I think I never fixed it, so it's tough because we don't have a full conclusion of all the science, and it's going to take time. But like I said, it's a treatable injury. I was able to treat it. And I try to tell guys if they get hurt, I'm always reaching out to guys. I had a friend of mine get a concussion early in the year. Like, man, just go see a specialist, do the stuff. A lot of the stuff you have to do at home anyways. Fix it. Like, don't let it linger. Don't just hope, and don't go into don't go into a depression, because the toughest part about the injury is you just don't know when you're getting better. You don't, you sprain your MCL, 4 to 6 weeks. Okay.
Right.
Like, I'm mentally prepared for 4 to 6 weeks. I initially thought 2 weeks, and then here I am 2 months. Here I am 4 months, and I'm like, am I ever going to be normal again? So, no, I'm rambling on, but I don't mind speaking a little further to it, because guys go through these, and people know people that go through these things, and unfortunately, like, I've seen guys that really go down a dark path, and I think it's better that you have guys speaking out about it, that it is treatable, and that you can get help. And do so. And if you know somebody that has had that injury, even if it was a year ago or 2 years ago, just try to let them know that there are people to help, because, sometimes you think about it like, oh, this guy got a concussion a year or two ago, and like, oh, he's been acting weird. Well, maybe that's why, maybe not. But, so it's a treatable injury, and people just have to go seek out the right people to treat it.
So glad we can talk about that now, and that you're open to talking about it, and in a related way that the game has become more open to talking about mental health issues too. I mean, you alluded to depression setting in for some guys, with concussion. So I'm glad the game has evolved. I think that's great for everybody.
Yeah.
Especially all the kids we have coming up that you're working with, and others.
Yeah.
You are not officially retired now. But you are doing some coaching. So tell us about your coaching, and what are you trying to bring to the game from your experience?
Yeah. Well, I've been coaching for a long time. And initially it was helping me get through college, financially. And I always loved it. I mean, I coached when I was, midgets, the young kids.
Mm-hmm.
What I bring to I just try to, I really, especially when I started playing in Europe, like with my business, it just became more of a niche. So I'm trying to work with kids that want to get to the next level. I mean, I'll work with other kids as well. A lot more private settings, 2-to-1, 2 goalies and myself. I just try to help guys, reach their goals, whether obviously the on-ice stuff, but, I'm always open. I'm always lending my experiences. I'll try to pass along video if I see something online that relates to the goaltender itself. With some of my athletes, especially guys I've been working with this year during the season, which is the first time I've had the opportunity to do that because I was always playing. We try to watch some video, just like you guys have online with your pro goalies, which is awesome. Just to go through reads, just, hey, tell me what you saw here. Like, what do you think of this? Okay, what do you think about trying this? I think that, clinics and all that and camps are great, but when you can really get one-on-one with a goalie, talk about situations, talk about why you do this here, why you don't do this here. And I always try to encourage dialogue. I want to have the what, the where, and the why answered before we conclude our conversation. And it's ultimately up to the goaltender, especially the guys I work with are either, D1 athletes or college athletes, are going to go to college. They're good enough for, hey, make your own opinion. Like, this is what I think. If you like it, take it in. If you don't, spit it out. It's fine with me. So, yeah, I just love working with the guys I do. Like, I can tell you, every single guy I work with or girl I work with a lot of girls as well. Like, they all want to get better, get to the next level and succeed. And, I love it. I love seeing that. It reminds me a lot of coming up as an athlete. And it's been a great way to stay a part of the game, while I haven't been playing professionally. So I've been lucky to have the students I have. It really has been a blessing for me.
Well, it sounds like you're bringing a whole lot of experience from all the goaltending coaches you've worked with, from all the partners you've worked with over the years, and able to bring that in your own unique way to a lot of students. So if people want to get in touch with you to work with you, how do they find you?
LeggioGoaltending.com. And then I'm on Twitter. I think Leggio Goaltending is the handle there. I got a public Instagram as well. It's just David Leggio. It's not our Leggio Goaltending, but and anyone that's listening, if you're a young goalie coming up, feel free to reach out anytime, even if you just want some advice or whatever. That's the great thing about social media, where it can be a toxic place. It can be a place that is distracting, or you see a lot of negative stuff. It could also be a great place to share ideas and to connect with some people that might be able to help you. And I've been on the other side of that too, where I've reached out to, maybe it's a health coach or a trainer, and asked a question about a video they posted, and the majority of the guys have always answered me. And I feel a duty that if a young goalie or anybody wants to reach out and ask a question, I'll do my best to answer and try to help guide them along. So I'd be happy to help anyone.
That's fantastic, David. I think that's one of the great things as well. The negative side of social media, I think, gets amplified far too much, because we've had nothing but positive experiences, really. I remember when InGoal started 11 years ago now, just being terrified to make that first publish, hit that button for the first time, wondering what would, arise from people's reactions. And much to my surprise, it's been nothing but positive. So it's great that people like you are out there willing to share.
Well, I mean, and thank you for sharing. Even as a goaltender myself, I mean, I love learning about people, learning about goalies, trying to steal from them. And you guys do an amazing job of highlighting that stuff, and especially with your premium content. Like I told you, I'll be sure to sign up, check it out. I think you guys do a phenomenal job of spreading that information, and it just accelerates the development of the position as a whole, and for individuals to take the time and the care in their game to get better. And that's a great way to speed up your 10,000 hours. So I think the whole goalie community would extend a thank you to you and your team as well.
Oh, thanks, David. Really appreciate that. Well, that was fantastic. I think there's a ton of stuff in there that we would love to peel back more. So I hope this isn't the last time that we talk on InGoal Radio and InGoal Magazine, and look forward to more of it in the future. Thanks for taking some time today.
Oh, thanks for having me.
An innovator and a guy that just loves the position and has seen the world through the eyes of the mask, goaltending. Loves the game, loves the sport, and I just really enjoyed the way his mind took us through that. Not only tipping the net off, but so many other parts of that interview. Nice job, Hutch. Great job tracking him down. And Leggio, interesting, he's not retired yet. And none of the three of us have signed our retirement papers either.
No, so, I'm still available if anybody needs someone.
More competition, but it got us thinking. Okay, you guys never did say, first of all, what's the penalty if you knock the net off in a situation like that now?
Well, it now depends on the league.
Mm-hmm.
Because the two leagues that he did it in changed the rules differently.
Oh, how did they change it?
So, and I'm going to get wrong which of the two leagues it was, but so one of them simply changed it from the penalty shot alone, and they added in an ejection for the goaltender. So the goaltender simply removed from the game. Whereas another one has simply made it an automatic goal.
That's where I thought it was.
So did I, until I actually spoke to David and did a little bit of background research ahead of our conversation. So, well, and I want to say it's in the German league. It's just an ejection, but I'm probably going to get it wrong.
Well, and in the National Hockey League, they went the other way. They adopted the rule, and probably a good thing, because we've seen a few 2-on-0s already this season. Jacob Markstrom faced a 3-on-0 in overtime. It's an automatic goal in the NHL if you do that.
That makes sense to me. I love that he did it. I love the innovation. Genius. I really, really. But at the same time, I think the change in the rules is correct as well.
Well, yeah, and the funny thing is the NHL didn't do it till this summer. Like they waited until this summer, and if they'd waited a little bit longer, we've had a couple of cases this year. Like Connor Hellebuck had a 2-on-0 against the
day we did that interview, funny enough.
Yeah, and we've seen 3-on-0s in, like, if you're facing a 3-on-0 in overtime, 3-on-3, and you have the option to turn around, knock your net off, and just have it be a single breakaway, you'd be an idiot not to do it. David Leggio was brilliant for getting ahead of the curve, and now the leagues have caught up. And so anybody who criticizes it, you can take your spirit of the game and, quite frankly, shove it. He knew the rules. Other people didn't. He took advantage of them. He's trying to help his team win.
Whoa. Language here, please.
I didn't tell you where they could shove it. I just told you they could shove it.
Wow. Woody getting all up in our grill here.
I'm just fired up. I don't know if people are going to realize this. I'm just fired up because I screwed up the recorder and I've made our life really miserable on my recording here. So poor Hutch is just like, I'm going to have to send a bottle of whiskey over to him.
Oh, never.
A case.
So it's a 3. If it's a 3-on-0, and you knock the net off, it's at the discretion of the official to award the automatic goal?
No, in the NHL, it's automatic.
No, it's a goal.
It's a goal.
Okay, so it's not even up to the official whether it's accidental or anything.
The goalie knocks their own net off during a breakaway.
Oh,
or
not
automatic.
Sorry. Yeah, no, Darren's asking about what if it's accidental. No, that's totally different.
Oh, yeah.
What if I just lean back while the 3-on-0 is coming? And I'm thinking it might be in my best interest to take my chances with the discretion of the official than the 3-on-0.
There you go, Darren. I'd like to see that.
You just lean into your left post and like give it a really hard push, and you're like, man, I just wanted to make a good push to come out and challenge. What are you talking about? I didn't do it on purpose.
Macaulay, come on, let's go. And then he goes to center ice and he gives me the emphatic no goal, something like that. Awesome. But this has been around. Like Leggio follows in a great line of innovators when it comes to exploiting the rules. And Roger Nielsen, the late great, had a couple of wonderful ones.
You know, when I was a youngster playing hockey in Minden, Ontario, at about age 6, Roger Nielsen came to speak to our banquet as the then coach of the Peterborough Petes. And it was just a few years before that, I think it was 1968 when I did a little research, he had employed the tactic of sending a defenseman out on the ice for a penalty shot instead of his goaltender, swapped them out. The theory being...
And why would he do that? Yeah.
Well, as soon as forward progress stops, the penalty shot is over. So you send your defenseman out there to charge the oncoming player and get him to either stop or get the puck away from him or whatever. I don't remember exactly what happened in this case, but I do know that it succeeded and his team ended up losing the game ultimately, but succeeded on the penalty shot. I actually, guys, had a coach when I was playing in high school in Toronto, Upper Canada College. I had a coach when a penalty shot was called against our team. He called me over, and he had been a referee in the Ontario Hockey League, and he referenced the forward progress rule and told me that he'd seen this in the OHL, that as soon as the forward coming at me touched the puck, that I should race out of my net, throw off my gloves, throw off my helmet, and start screaming, "I'm not ready, I'm not ready." And he said this successfully happened in the Ontario Hockey League. I wouldn't do it. I didn't do it. I got scored on anyway. But yeah, so Nielsen and then my old coach from UCC in Toronto.
I think I want to test some of because you guys love to chirp me about beer league and stuff. I'm going to try some of these things in beer league.
You should. I don't know if I've ever had a penalty shot on me in beer league. Except one of those just sort of pickup games where there's no penalties and everything's a penalty shot, but not in a refereed game. I don't think so. No.
They hand them out like candy in men's league.
Huh.
Your coach at UCC went on to a sensational National Hockey League career as a coach with that kind of advice.
He did not, but he did inspire me to a career in computer science. So hats off to him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, good. The stick on a empty net was one that I'd heard of from Roger Nielsen.
Yeah, same one. So pull the goaltender in the dying minutes of the game for an extra attacker, and there was nothing saying the goalie couldn't just leave his stick lying along the goal line. I didn't find a reference for where that one came from, although allegedly, when it did happen, a puck was sent to the other end and did hit the stick, so it prevented a goal, and that's when the rule was changed. So that's an automatic goal now too.
So variation on that we've seen when Ian Clark was the goalie coach in Columbus with Sergei Bobrovsky on 2-on-1s to the blocker side. So if a lateral 2-on-1 feed made Bobrovsky move from his glove to his blocker side, left to right, he would drop his stick in order to free up his blocker hand for an extended save. Because, of course, if you're holding the stick, it's very hard to reach the blocker out and still keep it square. The stick gets in the way. So by dropping the stick, Bobrovsky had quite deliberately practiced all this, dropping the stick and being able to sort of really freely access his blocker hand. And we saw him make some spectacular saves. But one part of the routine that they practiced, and it wasn't just, hey, let's try this, but they practiced it, I don't say religiously, but they took time in certain practices to work on it, was where and how he dropped the stick as he's making this desperation push. And the theory was drop it facing up ice, middle of the way, sort of between the hash marks, or just above the crease as you sprawl across, because if that guy has time to catch it, dust it off, and go back the other way with the second pass, there's a chance at least it hits your stick and breaks up that second backdoor pass the other way. So a variation, no rule written to prevent that yet. Probably because we haven't seen many saves made by it. But hey, goalies are always looking for an edge, and there's a prime example.
I like that.
Yeah, from leaving it in the crease to leaving it in the middle of the ice for a backdoor pass. It's smart, right? This is innovation.
I've seen it work in practice on a breakaway as well. So just drop the stick horizontally, like parallel to the goal line. Drop the stick in front of you, and the player just runs right into it with the puck.
It's not It's actually not a terrible
a bit greasy.
Yeah, well, hey, man, I'd like to.
I don't know who started it. I got to credit Greg Maggio, Magic Goaltending. His father, Angelo, is a good friend of ours, and Greg showed it to us one day in practice. I saw it work, and I've seen it mimic since.
You'd have to be pretty deliberate, though, right? Because you'd have to really lay it down, because anything that could constitute throwing the stick is, of course,
drop is different than a throw. Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, we can get into semantics.
People of a certain age will wonder, well, the sticks, I mean, the puck's just going to hit the stick and keep going because sticks are so light. But back when Roger came up with this, the old Sherwoods or the Northland sticks were so heavy that it would legitimately stop the puck. And they were so thick that it couldn't skip over too. So there was the added advantage of that. I'm not sure now with the sticks, if you put it down there, the puck would hit it and just keep on going. Like, they would just knock everything into the net. Strategy from a not a better day, but a more innovative day. Let's just put it that way, where you had there wasn't cameras and everything around, and you could play with these kind of things. This has been fun. I liked having Cam back in the show, catching up at the hockey shop. That was quite enjoyable. And David Leggio was. I look forward to some more collaboration with Leggio. Hutch.
Yeah, I thought he was a fascinating guy to talk to, and as Woody pointed out, he's worked with so many goaltending coaches that he's just got this wealth of experience. It's funny, quite often we will say, maybe those of us being a little defensive, just because so-and-so played the game doesn't mean he's going to be a great coach. But the fact is that what Leggio brings to the table is just those years and years of experience with so many people. So his toolkit is just massive for the different skills that he's learned over the years. And that's an experience outside the actual gameplay that just brings so much to the table as a coach.
The little bits and pieces that he took from all those goalie coaches and those small sample sizes, and you put it into one mixing bowl, you can come up with a pretty fantastic recipe.
Oh, we could have taken that small part of the interview and spun it into hours of chat about all sorts of things. So yeah, looking forward to chatting with him again for sure.
Hey, make no mistake, I made notes as I was listening to it. And like I said, kudos, Hutch, good job on the interview. There are several here that I'm like, follow-up article. So we will be trying to tap into that wealth of knowledge, because I think there is a lot more detail there that goalies everywhere and anywhere could benefit from David Leggio. Really enjoyed it.
And make sure you check out the Hockey Shop, thehockeyshop.com, source for sports Surrey, the Bauer 2S Pro line that Woody and Cam discussed. Go in onto the website and really peruse if you can't get there in person. It's a great opportunity to pick up some solid product at a discounted price. For David Hutchison and Kevin Woodley, I'm Darren Millard. Thanks for listening to InGoal Radio, the podcast, with David acting like Goliath and tossing the net off, down to just some really solid advice about growing up in the game and what to do if you're a junior kid or a minor hockey goaltender. It's been a fun program. We'll talk to you next week.